This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Teider. My dear guest today is a wonderful, wonderful lady with two names, Dodo Roščić or Doroteja Gradištanac. Hi, Dodo.
Hi, beautiful and fantastic and lovely Anna. Thank you for welcoming me.
Let's tell our listeners, this is our second try, Dodo, because yesterday first we had some technical issues. Then we finally managed to start recording, and we recorded most of our interview, and then we had technical issues again. Then we ran out of time because we're both mothers and had to put our children to bed.
Yes, because there's no one else to... both husbands were waiting for us to do the put to bed part. So we were in trouble. Yeah,
we were in trouble. So we had to stop. And then we met today again. And now it took us, 20 minutes to figure out the technical side of this whole thing. But hello, we are here again and we're recording. We can do this.
Yes, but it was really tricky. It's not that we're not into technical solutions, but it was just tricky.
It was,
and
just
we figured
tricky.
it out. And you told me about the professor who would really know about everything.
Yes,
beautiful
the computer
lady
professor of high. What did she? I forgot what it is. Some high system computer technology something, and she had trouble getting on Skype.
It happened to her. Okay, yeah. I mean. How do you expect me to perform?
Yeah, but Dodo, let's tell the listeners now the fact that you used to be on radio for many, many years, so you don't have an excuse in front of your microphone.
Yes, I do, because this was before internet. No, it was not that long ago. But actually, it was not about whether or not you use Safari or Chrome.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I hope this serves as my excuse today.
Yeah, but you figured it out. But see, I just already started introducing you. So, Dodo, my dear guest today, is a famous name in Austria. She used to be a very, very well-known radio moderator in the early 90s when I moved to Vienna. Then she switched to TV, where she was famous for moderating some reality shows. And then she went behind the camera and started developing new formats for TV. And I just read gossip, Dodo, that you might become the head of a very, very cool radio station here in Austria.
So did I. I also read those.
You read the gossip as well. Okay. Welcome to Thank You, Mom. I'm so excited you are here, especially after we did this interview once yesterday. I know what's coming and it's great.
Thank you for being so nice and really calm and taking me through this. I enjoyed the conversation, and I'm really sure we're not going to act again, but that you're going to take me through the conversation in the same manner as yesterday. And I've been thinking about since yesterday evening about whatever we have talked about. So I really, really enjoyed, and I have to thank you a lot. Yeah.
Oh, it was fascinating. I can't wait to talk about it again. Let's do it again. So let's start. Dodo, I know you were born in Belgrade, but we are both in Austria right now. Tell me about how that happened.
Yeah, how come? So I was born in Belgrade, and then I moved to Austria when I was 2 years old. And I moved to Linz, Upper Austria, where I finished school. Then I came to Vienna to study. After my studies of comparative literary studies, I had a plan to move to the States. Mm-hmm. But something in me was strongly telling me I have already once left home. Mm-hmm. And I just could not go. I don't have this capacity in me, obviously, or this boldness to just have left at that age. And so actually I'm still in Vienna. I'm happy here. I bring everybody else to move here, including my husband from the States. and so I feel Austrian now. Yeah. So this is my way in short words.
Let's talk about Mama. Can we immediately jump into Mama?
Of course.
I'm very excited about Mama. So Mama Mama Danoila, is it today her birthday, her 80th?
My Mama Danoila, called Lola's birthday, her 80th birthday is today, yes.
Oh,
I've just returned from her place. Yes. It was
birthday,
beautiful
Lola.
to see her. Thank you. I will tell her, and she will listen to the podcast, and I said hi from you, and yeah. So I just came
That's
back
exciting.
from a beautiful blue-eyed mama.
Oh, beautiful. She has quite a tough life story. She lost her dad when she was very, very little.
She never has met him, actually. She lost her dad in the last days of Second World War, where you might argue, like, how, is it still... How can still lives be lost there? But this is how war is, right? And then she actually has never seen her dad. And she was alone with her mom and her two older sisters. And they needed to flee from Montenegro. And they went through the woods, the four of them. So my mom, her two sisters, and their mother, my grandmother, to Kosovo. And they... stationed in Kosovska Mitrovica, which is today, it's called the city of the divided city, where there is a bridge over Ibar, which divides the so-called Albanian from the so-called, or in reality, Serbian part of the city. So this is where they moved to.
That must have been extremely stressful. So your grandmother took her mom and her two daughters, or three daughters, I forgot.
No, so it was my grandmom and her three daughters. After her husband died, I think there was some family there. Why exactly they left Montenegro? As far as I know, they needed to leave because the Kingdom of Albania was in war with Mussolini's Italy, therefore against the partisan Yugoslav army, or reforming Yugoslav army. So there were a lot of fights going on there. There was Italian soldiers, and so they were fleeing. And also they were from a family that was in the partisans, so they believed in the idea. Not Titoist, though. So a lot of uncles ended up later in concentration camps. But they were what they call Russophile communists. So they were not on Tito's so-called third way, but they had another idea about communism in Yugoslavia. But so they were not with the winning team, so to say. But they just were put. So the men in the family were put away.
For those who don't know, Tito created Yugoslavia after the war. In the beginning, he was still part of the communist bloc, but then in 1948, he decided to leave the bloc, and he created something like a neutral. He created his own version of communism, and he would get rid of people who were too much on the Russian side.
Yeah, he invented, so to say. Also, some say he invented his uniforms. He invented the narrative. He invented the history of this country in a way. Who am I to judge whether this was good or bad or whatever would have happened otherwise? So Yugoslav people had passports; they could travel. There were no walls. So but there were concentration camps, and all of my uncles were in there. So because you were mentioning, my mother did not have a very easy life or start. One of the stories from her childhood I remember was that she was told when she was 4 or 5, and she and her other cousins were laughing about something, and they were told, "How can you be laughing? There is nothing to laugh about. Your uncle is in concentration camp." Yes, so this was the vision of being a child in that time.
So she grew up on Kosovo, and then she went to Belgrade to study medicine. And you told me yesterday that by that time she already knew your dad. She met your dad very, very early on, didn't she? She was a teenager.
Yes, my father also lived in. He was also from Kosovo, but he was a son of a. So I'm a real Yugoslav. I'm not neither Serbian nor Montenegrin nor
Croatian,
nor from Croatia,
and everything.
But
nothing and everything.
Yes. Yes, but this is what I love about this heritage, and I'm really proud of it. So I still say, where I'm from is Yugoslavia, whether you like it or not, but this is where I was born. And so his dad was from Croatia, from that time in Yugoslavia. It was the same country, but he was from Dalmatia, from the seaside, from the south of Split. His name was Anton Roščić, and he had 2 sons and 1 daughter. And my father's Zvonimir Roščić. I think there is not more a name which is connotated more Croatian than Zvonimir. Oh, there is one name, and this was the name of his brother, which is Tomislav.
Tomislav. I just wanted to say, Tomislav.
It's Tomislav and Zvonimir, so a very Serbian,
old Croatian kings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was also he also lived in Kosovska Mitrovica, and they met. My dad is 7 years senior to my mom, and he left to study medicine. But before that, actually, when my mom was 21, they got married, and my father actually made my mom study medicine or prevented my mother from the ideas of everybody else, maybe even a little bit herself, to that a career as a housewife would be enough. And he really appreciated her ambitions and supported her in every way. And I loved about our conversation that you have mentioned that there in a lot of conversations you have had that there is rarely the husband supporting.
Never.
But my father. But this is exactly my father. Yeah, I this is really special, and I know that. I appreciate that. And he made my mother study medicine, and then she became anesthesiologist, and my father himself is maxillofacial surgeon.
So she had 2 children. She had your brother, and then she had you, and she managed to finish her medical degree, just before she had you, I think you said.
I think still while I was already born, she then therefore sent me, so to say, to my grandmother back to Kosovo. This is why I'm maybe recurring so much on Kosovo, because I have lived there in a way, maybe in my early 2 years or 3, but I have memories of the sounds, of the smells, of a city of all cultures, of all religions. Actually, my grandmother lived across from a very small, beautiful mosque at the river Ibar, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. So I remember the singing of from there 3 times a day. So I remembered Kosovo as my own memories and heritage. And so while she was finishing medicine, I was with her mother, which is also a very interesting, but maybe you'll make another podcast series about that, like thank you mama's mama, because
thank you grandma.
another layer of companionship between women and whatever they learn from one another.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I remember I loved this woman. She died when I was 16 years old. I was heartbroken. And I remember my mom being in a fight with my grandmother once. And I couldn't believe that these 2 women were getting into a fight.
So Dodo, Mama finished medicine, and then your father got headhunted actually to come to Austria and work in a hospital. So he left first. Yes. And then Mom followed.
Mom and brother followed because he was big already, and I still was, not to say left behind, but maybe some times afterwards, because you always said your podcast is not about idealizations of mothers and their ways. So in a way, I was left behind physically and emotionally maybe. Until they were ready to get me to. So at the age of 2 or 2.5, I would come after the 3 of them. And I remember this time without them. And then I remember the time with them, but having left my grandmother behind. So I have this double bind situation of guilt and of the guilt. And I don't know, maybe being ashamed of having been abandoned and having been left back. And also about then myself abandoning my grandmother and my cousins there, and my aunt, my mother's sister, who I started calling Mama, because I called her the way other like my cousins would call her. And
so Mama Lola is now in Austria with 2 small children, left her country behind, and starts working in a hospital in a completely new culture, new country, new language. That must have been a lot of work and quite a big challenge, wasn't it?
I think it was very, very tough. So my brother was not that small. He was at this point, when he came, he was 11. So for him, it was not easy. And mom worked in hospital day and night. She had 15 night shifts a month, and she would
That's
just
crazy.
function in Latin, because those medical doctors have a language of their own.
Yeah.
Which is yeah. So she got by, and it was really, really, really not easy. I think emotionally not easy. I think that she was very, very tired, and I'm a very emotional child. I think I needed a lot of conversation and being held and loved, and there was little time for that, really.
And Dodo, yesterday I learned from you that she did have, I called it help. I said, did she have help? And you said there were these women. I don't know if they were helpful or not, but she did, because I want to encourage women also to get help if it's possible for them, So mom had some women that would, as you said, make breakfast for you if she was in a night shift and make sure that you get to school. So there was somebody who supported her.
Yes, definitely. And you should encourage everybody, and we should encourage everybody, not only other women, but also maybe other men.
Absolutely.
But maybe these women were not always helpful, because what you mean is that one took me for walks, and then I was asked, so where did you go today? And I said, to the graveyard, because this lady liked to go, I don't know, visit graves, and the other one always gave me sausages, and then I would feel sick of that and stuff. So it was not, get help, but also get trained help and tell them exactly what you want them to do. Don't feel guilty about getting help, and don't feel bad to tell them do this and don't do that, but just get proper help. Yeah, definitely. And don't feel bad about it ever. And so I can only really encourage everybody. And so would my mom.
Yeah. So what happened then? Mom continued working in the hospital her whole life long and got retired. And then she moved to Vienna with you.
So mom sold the house, and she came to Vienna, and my brother's first son was born in this very year. So therefore her moving to Vienna was somehow rewarded by sense, and by it made sense, and everybody was happy about that.
Is she a happy retiree? What is she doing in her retirement?
I'm not sure how happy really she is. You know how you think about somebody else, which is not yourself. So I thought she's going to be in Aidshilfe, helping HIV positive men and women coping, or maybe be in Doctors Without Borders. But she just needed a rest. And then also she got severely, sick in 2008.
Oh no.
She got cancer, but everything went okay. She's healed now.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
2008. Yes. Thank you. But it was with chemotherapy and everything. So it was a very hard way. And I think she worked so much that she was tired, and she now is tired, and now she needs, since this chemo and everything in 2008, I think she changed in terms of, also she says, I need a rest now. She would never need a rest. She would never, but now she speaks her mind, and she stands up for herself and for her needs, which she never learned, I think, from her mom. So I'm really happy about this development, so to say.
This is such a beautiful thing, because I think we slowly landed with the lessons. It feels like we started talking about lessons. Tell me about what you feel like you've learned from her.
Well, I've learned one of the things, and I've told you this before, and you asked me in written form about this beforehand, and so I had this chance to think about it, because otherwise maybe now I wouldn't know the answer exactly. But one of the things I've definitely learned is not to get carried away by groups and by group pressure or by energies of groups. Like, my mom is not somebody who bends to, oh, it's so cool and everybody's so happy and we need to go there, because I'm somebody who would then, I would get happy about and excited, and I want to be a part of something, or a part of a group or a community. And my mom doesn't have this, she doesn't need it. And therefore a lot of times she was just right and precise in her the way she perceived some certain situations. Like I would be happy and excited and wiggling my tail and she would say, I don't know.
But what is wrong with that? Would you then get disappointed by these groups?
A lot of times, then I would know, or it wouldn't be me actually. It would be me wanting to belong to a group or to some sort of, like a lot of times, not anymore now after psychotherapy of some years, but maybe still at the age of in my 20s or 30s, I would like do stuff because I thought that's what you needed to do. My mother was not somebody who would impose such a, otherwise I think moms would do that. So my mom wouldn't impose not a pressure, but an issue, and then this is to be followed. So I was looking for other women, like mother figures or older, like 10 years, my senior friends of mine, women who I then would follow like they were God or like they were a second mom. They would never like to hear that because they would figure we're the same age or something. But I would actually look at them as somebody who I wanted to follow in order to belong to a group or to some order or to some logic or emotional haven.
And mom always belonged to herself. She was her own group.
Yes, or to nobody. She just, she just didn't have this, so she didn't need it. And I was constantly trying to look for it, and trying to...
But now you have it. You found it.
Also in myself, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you can only find this in yourself.
Exactly, but I wasn't aware of that. And there were sometimes when I listened into myself, I didn't know whether anybody was home. I could not console myself, so to say. So now, having learned that, of course, and being a mom myself, I know that this is the way. But there were years in my life I was completely lost at sea and wouldn't know what is good or bad, or I just, because my mother, because I think this is the being abandoned part as a small child. I didn't have this anchor within me. So my mother, as somebody to console me, never was set inside me or found place inside me. So then, as a grown-up woman, I could console myself. So I was always seeking approval. I was always seeking. I think also this is a way you become a TV presenter, because you constantly seek approval.
Or an actress.
It's not a very happy place to be. Exactly.
Yeah, an actress.
Also comedians. They're the most. They're searching and needing like people in need of applause, of attention, of love. And I had this issue, and I don't have it anymore, which is good. But it took me a while.
But you did it.
I did.
Dodo, let's jump to next lesson.
Yeah, what else was there? Oh, yes. I have seen my mother work really hard, because my father and my mother, they struggled their way out of ex-Yugoslavia. They were not part of the system. They were not part of the one party. They struggled out for a better life for my brother and me, and for better schooling and for better living. By this hardworking manner and this ambition, she definitely, like, failure is not an option for me, or having bad grades in university was never an option. And today, when I look myself functioning, and when I look at my son, how I want him to, he's in first grade now. He just started school in September. We are having this conversation in December of 2021. And my son says, no, I don't need to finish this. Like, this is not my homework. This one line I don't need to finish. And I say, of course you do. It's like, and it's maybe the little things, but it's this, you work hard. I mean, you have lived in the States, Anna. You know what I'm talking about. There, you I don't know, you get it with mother's milk. In the Balkans, you don't get it anywhere. You don't see it. You don't, because whatever you see in society does not happen by working hard and being clever and being an intellectual, and by being clever and by being fair and by being. But it happens by war, by theft, by it doesn't happen in a good way. So there you cannot learn somehow this system of value, what I'm talking about. But I've learned this definitely from my parents and also from my mother up to this day. And also feminism-wise, so I've never been taught to like find a man who would carry, I don't know, bottles of mineral water for me, but like buy them myself, carry them myself, like drive the car to, buy them myself and like take care of myself. Also in this way, is hard working is also a feminist sort of act, I think.
Being equal to, I can do it myself. Being equal to men, I can do what you can do.
And in former Yugoslavia, like the term feminism didn't exist, to my knowledge. Like I heard it afterwards in Austria, and when I was growing up with German newspapers and women who would be feminists, but from back home, as I then called it, there was like women were equal, and it was just the normal value system of this socialist system. You have to say women and men were equal.
And I told you yesterday, I wrote about it in Titeln, how interesting it was that growing up in Yugoslavia, I've never seen a housewife. No, I didn't know a single woman who didn't work or have a career, and nobody stayed at home. Women were just really the equal partners in the society.
But in hating these systems, and after the war, like nobody mentions this anymore,
Nobody
and now
the
role of women, if I look back to Serbia and if I look back to Belgrade and to women on television, I wonder why they look like prostitutes, and I wonder what happened to the role of women.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think in Croatia, if I may say so, it's similar.
Same thing.
There is what they call in German a Frauenbild, like what is the picture of women, what is the role of women, what is the in society, what is their value, what do they stand for, what do you teach your daughter? So there a lot of things went wrong, and I blame civil war. But from my mother, I got this complete clear guidance to see what's wrong and what's not wrong there. So I would despise women dressing up, and I would not out of jealousy, but just out of knowing that it's not good, and it's not it's not a good thing to do for yourself and for other women to just be like something to be bought or used and then abused and then thrown away, but just I learned to stand my grounds, to have my quality, to have my university degree, to have my career, to pay my bills, to, all of this was completely out of the question. I've never been taught to just marry. And therefore I got married way after 40 or with 40, 41. So it was not for me, my goal in my life to be like a married. So it was completely out of the question. This is definitely a lesson.
Definitely a lesson from Mama. And then I have a last lesson here about the family loyalty, which I'm very curious about.
Yes, my mother always used to call it the cosa nostra between her sisters, because a lot of people talk a lot about everything and they are opinionated and then they guess around and they're bragging about things and about conversations, and my mama never liked this, and I learned this from her. Like for example, when she was really sick, she would not want anyone to know. Like other women would say, I have this cancer, I need to go to chemotherapy, and everybody would talk about it constantly, and she just didn't want everything to know. This was a lot of pressure on my shoulders back then.
But she kept it within the family. Is
Definitely.
That what you mean? She kept these
within
kind
her
of things.
Sisters, like two sisters, their children, and this was it. And her children. So she never was, and there you could be open about your needs, about your problems, and there you could get all of the understanding, like and talk about openly about everything. And I have later encountered a lot of families where everybody discusses everybody's decisions, being opinionated about their wives, their boyfriends, their way of dressing themselves, like everything. So this would not happen with my mother present. She would just say, We're not discussing this. This is family.
So family is here to be your safe space and your support system, and not to discuss you and make you feel insecure, basically.
Yes.
Oh, I
she
love
would
that.
do this. She would do this one-on-one, but she would not do this within this circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really I want my son to learn this. This is something really beautiful to just say. This is your safe space, just as you say.
Your family is your safe space. Mm-hmm. Are there any things that she was not able to teach you? Is there anything you're like, I wish my mom taught me this, or look, I had to learn it myself?
Oh, a lot of things. A lot of things in times of insecurity, or in times of, it took me a lot of years to figure out that I can do things, I felt very insecure. I know I don't seem that way, but I'm very, very highly, or for a lot of years in my life, felt very insecure. And then I because she wasn't there, and then I have this whole issue about why didn't she teach me to believe in myself, to really, really, really stand up to everybody. So it took me a lot. Like now, if I say something, I know I'm right. Like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I would say something and then I would immediately regret, because I would question myself. Was it my role to say this? Was it okay to say this? Also within the family.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and this is the real force of an argument, you say it and you know.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would just keep my mouth shut, but I know I'm right. And this I didn't learn from her. I learned it from myself.
How?
But maybe therefore it's even, therapy, experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think therefore maybe it's even more stronger, or even more important.
More valuable, yeah.
And more valuable to myself.
Yeah. Isn't it beautiful? We talked about it yesterday a little bit about, because I've experienced that, finding yourself. And it's one of the most, I think, maybe the most beautiful thing that can happen in your lifetime, to reach that moment where you're like, I have myself, like I have my back. I'm here for myself. To just find yourself. It's beautiful.
So I think this is, if you're at that point, that you have done all you can do in a lifetime for yourself and for also your family. I think this is the goal, and
absolutely
to accept yourself, to have yourself, to manage your states,
and to be
know
your
yourself,
friend.
to understand.
I always say to be your friend, to be okay in your own company, to be like, I enjoy you. Dodo, we talked about really amazing lessons of what she taught you and she didn't teach you. Is there anything else? Is there anything else she was not able to teach you, or anything else she was able to teach you? Anything else you'd like to mention?
I think that today, when I talked to my mom, I think she was not able to teach me to look at things the simple way, the easy way, not to worry too much. Because out of her generation and out of her experiences, she really had to worry a lot, and there was a reason to that. And then today, it sometimes takes me a lot of energy to tell my sons, like I try to give him this complete lightness of
being,
of life and being, and not being worrying all the time, and not just it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. And my husband was a very good input and impact for me this way, because he's from a complete other family, has a beautiful mama story. And he needs to tell you all about his story at another time. And so he was a great input on me. And I think this she couldn't teach me. And then on the other hand, she taught me a lot about, like, my mother remembers stuff really well. She, like, when we went to holidays together or had travels to Asia through the States, she knows everything. So I asked myself, I was there, where in my mind was this constantly overthrown by other impressions or by other waves of I don't know, hysteria and action and sounds, and so she remembers where we were and what somebody said and what we ordered or the restaurant. So I enjoy listening to her, and I constantly want to sit her down and record the family's history on her side, because neither my brother nor I have an idea. Neither I think the family back in Belgrade or now Montenegro, they some of them do, but I would like to hear her story about a lot of things, because this is what made my childhood with these stories, and I'm afraid that I grew up too far away from the homeland in Linz and Vienna to recreate these stories well enough for my son. Tomorrow.
You have to record
I've definitely learned.
Do that. Sit her down every now and then and record it. I'm sad I didn't do that with my mom and with Nick's parents. They passed away, and we didn't do that.
You have this, I don't know, why don't we just do that? Because it feels like everybody knows why we're doing it, because maybe time is running out and then you feel sad about it and you don't want to confront neither them nor us with that, and then you don't end up not having done it. So it's
exactly. I don't remember stuff, and then I asked my aunt to tell me, for instance, things about my grandmother, my mom's mom, because I really wanted to know, and she told me the whole story, and I forgot it again. I'm just like, I should have recorded it or written it down immediately.
I have been asking my mother, how long have I not been with you? When you left me in Kosovo, how long was this? And she would never answer me in time. She would answer me in reasons. I couldn't, and it was important, and you were with your grandmother, and she loved you to the moon and back, and da-da-da. And then once I flew to Belgrade to ask my aunt, this is how I come up with this now, because you say, and I asked her, what was the time? And she said when you're 8 months old to your second birthday. And the next day I had forgot it already again, because I could not, I think, process exactly as you were saying right now. I could not process the information. Maybe it was too painful. Maybe it was too, I don't know. So I went back and called her then and asked her. She would repeat. But I have the complete same
amnesia
experiences you have, and amnesia as you have, and maybe it's an emotional amnesia. I don't know. So I completely understand. And maybe then you even record it, and you need to listen 1,000 times in order to remember all of it.
Dodo, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I would like to share that I think that you're an amazing woman, that it's an amazing idea, an amazing mother, an amazing daughter, an amazing journalist, and that thank you for really thinking of me in all of this and giving me the opportunity to think about myself and my mother. And it's really, for me, it's like self-care. To answering your questions is like a beautiful healing process with myself. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think you're great, and I can't wait. I'm glad you're back in Vienna, and I hope we will really grow close now. We have not yet met in person, but I think this is going to change, and I want to share my love. Yes, and before that, even before lockdown, I think you were already here, but I definitely want to share my appreciation for your work and for what you have done with this series, and that I had the chance to talk about my mother, which means a lot, and thank you for this.
I'm so deeply touched. Thank you, Dodo. Let's before we say bye-byes, let's recap. I like to do that at the end of each episode, to just mention the lessons again, what we've learned. So I have a very, very interesting lesson: to not be driven by groups or get influenced by others. We talked about this moment of finding yourself and not needing to belong to a group unnecessary. And I love it how you said your mom just was herself. She was her own group always. She belonged to herself and was always a little suspicious about being too rush in running after a group or trying to engage with belong to others. I have hard work, and we talked about her very difficult life and how that was a necessity and it was a survival instinct for her. We talked about family loyalty, and I've never heard that lesson before, about creating a family as a safe space and a place where you're safe to be you, and people don't attack and criticize each other or discuss each other in non-constructive way, I would say.
That's it, yeah.
And then as something you wish she was able to teach you, I wrote down something you never really mentioned as a lesson. I don't know if you would agree with me. You said she never was able to say, I need a rest. It took her a long time to be able to acknowledge that. And I want to mention this as we talked about help as well. I want to mention this because it's so important for women to learn to ask for help and to learn to be able to say what they need. Many women have a problem with that, expressing what they need in that moment. So I wrote this as something she was not able to teach you because you said it took her a long time to be able to say, I just need to rest right now.
You know, it brought the tears to my eyes listening to you right now, because I think you're completely right. Yeah. I find myself also in this loop of not being able to communicate when it's enough.
Yeah. And what I'm learning just now, Dodo, is to figure out your needs. Nobody ever taught us, especially as women, to be aware of what we need. What do you need to be okay and to be you? I think we have to start thinking in that way a little.
Definitely. No, definitely. I don't know. I'm 49. I have no clue.
No. When somebody,
I'm the first one who needs to learn that. And
absolutely.
I think you're completely right. We need to teach our daughters.
Yes, yeah.
We need to teach our sons to listen to every person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you for this recap. It's really, you're completely right. Yeah.
And that, I told you I'm working on a Thank You Mama workshop, and I realized this figuring out what you need is going to be a big part of it.
Oh, yes.
Then I have written down, but this belongs to something she was able to teach you, being a feminist in the sense of being equal to men, because she just was.
Yes.
And what she was not able to teach you was to believe in yourself. We talked about that a lot. And not to worry too much. I'm glad you found ways to teach yourself both of that. Mama yourself.
Thank you. Yes, I mammed myself. Yeah.
Yes. Did I miss anything? Did I forget anything?
No, I don't think so. I feel completely understood and embraced. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Dodo, thank you again for being my guest. If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyouMama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider. That's Tajder. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.